What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 470 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. I am still sounding congested from the weekend, so I apologize in advance for that, but it was a great weekend at the Marceau compound, staying with Mr. Marceau for Survivor Series. We went to SmackDown on Friday in Providence, Survivor Series on Saturday in Boston, as well as the post-show press conference that you might have caught me on right after the show was over on the WWE YouTube channel and social media platforms and whatnot. I haven't gone back and watched it back yet. I really don't want to see myself on the thing, but it was cool. I was able to ask not one but two questions, one to Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman, and the other one to Triple H. That was pretty sweet. But yeah, I'm still kind of feeling the after effects of the weekend. It's been not just that, but like a very busy month with events I've gone to, shows I've gone to, stuff I've covered, other stuff I've got going on and whatnot, so I know the holiday season also gets very busy, but I'm hoping for a less chaotic month of December compared to November and October and September and August and July and every other month for the last 6 months. But, you know, I always say that and it ends up being pretty busy anyway. But nonetheless, though, I am excited for the month of December. It's November 30th as we speak right now, of course, the final day of November. This month completely blew by, but Christmas is my favorite time of year, one of my favorite times of year, as I talk about every single year, and I'm looking forward to spending the holiday season with you guys per usual. So if you want to send in a question to the show this holiday season, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Excuse me, on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, on the comment section down below in the comment section on this very video, I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. Let's get right into it. Micah does it from YouTube. Their first question was, now that the WWE 2022 pay-per-view calendar is over and we're getting ready for a new start in 2023, what is the best pay-per-view for 2022 from top to bottom, and what was the worst from top to bottom? Good question. If we're talking just WWE, I'm not going to include AEW or Impact or whatever. For WWE, the tough thing is that they've had probably, I think, 12 pay-per-views this year. I know they didn't have one in they didn't have one in August, but they had two in July, so there was that. And then a WrestleMania is two different nights, but I count that as one. There's not going to be a pay-per-view next month, I don't think. I heard something about an India event next month, but I'm not sure if that's a pay-per-view or what it is, but we had two in November. So I think we had 12 pay-per-views overall. And this might be one of the first years in a long time where legitimately almost every pay-per-view was good to great. And that's my own opinion. I mean, some pay-per-views were better than others. I didn't think Survivor Series was the best pay-per-view of the year. I enjoyed it. Extreme Rules was a very good show overall, I thought. I thought Clash of the Castle, to me, it comes down to two shows. Clash of the Castle or Night 1 WrestleMania. WrestleMania, if you're including WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 as one show overall, which I just said a moment ago, you probably could consider. I would probably go Clash, because I think Night 1 of WrestleMania this year was near perfect. It was a fantastic show, kind of gradually built to the better stuff. Started not slow, but, started with the weaker stuff first, which was still good, and ended with the best stuff. The Cody return, the Stone Cold return, Becky and Bianca, that was a fantastic show. So I would probably say Night 1 of WrestleMania. If you're including WrestleMania overall, Night 2 was good too. Night 2 was good. Not as good as Night 1, but it's still good. I would probably go with Clash. And we had a lot of other good pay-per-views in between. I thought Hell in a Cell had some bangers on it. WrestleMania Backlash, which I was there for, which was a much better show than it had any right to be. Money in the Bank was a good show. SummerSlam was very good. Maybe not top to bottom, but the opening and closing parts of that show were excellent. And also Crown Jewel was very good as well. Crown Jewel a couple of weeks ago. So I would probably go Clash. The Clash of the Castle was a fantastic show. For the worst pay-per-view, of the ones that I can think of, even Elimination Chamber had some moments. Not my favorite show, but probably the Rumble. I would hate to say it, but I feel like the Rumble, people came away from that show was when the morale among fans and reportedly performers as well was at its lowest. Even Day 1 I thought was a good show, back on January 1st, which a lot of people forget about. So we might have had actually 13 pay-per-views this year. Although then again, I don't think we had a pay-per-view in March, so I think it would probably be back to 12 pay-per-views. But Day 1 I enjoyed. Rumble, I thought, the men's Rumble was fucking awful. And that's really what people remember from the show. The show started strong with Roman and Rollins, which was an excellent match. The Women's Rumble I actually really liked. A lot of people didn't like it as much. Whatever. Bobby and Brock was a disappointment. Becky and Doudrop was what it needed to be. Just overall, not a great show. I thought it was a good show, but probably the weakest of every pay-per-view this year, if only for that ending, because I don't think there was another ending this year where the pay-per-view ended and people were as upset as they were when Brock Lesnar won the Rumble, or like when Shane McMahon came out and all that other shit. Just a really disappointing match and a really disappointing ending. They went in the exact route that we all feared they would, and it was not interesting at all. So I would probably go with the Royal Rumble as the worst pay-per-view of the year. And in retrospect, it wasn't even an awful show, but just compared to all the other shows, it probably ranks up there as the weakest / worst show of the year. Let's see here. Next question, also from Micah Does It. I saw you on the WWE press conference YouTube video. What was it like being there and backstage? Did you get to meet any of the big stars like Roman Reigns, Bianca Belair, or Drew McIntyre? It was a cool experience. Yeah, so we found out a couple days beforehand that I'd get to partake in that, because WWE announced it like a week ago, like last Monday or Tuesday. Much to my surprise, because they haven't done one of those domestically in a long time. Now, I know they did one with Cody. I was there for that. The day after Cody came back, they did it on WrestleMania Sunday morning, like at the Talent Hotel. That wasn't televised, though. You'll see, I have the footage of it here on the channel, but I don't think WWE ever put out the I don't think they ever streamed that. I don't think they put out the footage of that anywhere. It was like a secret thing until, people talked about it. But, yeah, that was cool. But otherwise, they haven't really done something like what they did on Saturday domestically in I don't know how long. Because I know they did one after Clash of the Castle, but that was in Saudi Arabia. Or I'm sorry, that was in I'm sorry, Jesus Christ, that was in Cardiff. They did one in Cardiff. They've done a couple press conferences like with Roman and Logan in Saudi. They did one in Vegas, but that wasn't like right before the pay-per-view. That was like to announce Roman and Logan a couple months ago. So this was cool. I got to ask 2 questions, which was awesome. I felt bad because most people only had to ask one, only had a chance to ask one, or most people didn't have a chance to ask anything at all, but it was still cool. Yeah, there really wasn't much more to it other than that, though. I sat in the back thinking, because most of the seats up in the first 2 rows were taken, so I'm thinking, okay, I probably won't get selected, and sure enough, that actually worked in my favor, which was cool. Triple H was cool. The problem with that one was that the question I was going to ask was already taken. I mean, the pretty obvious question, but like what's the future of War Games and the pay-per-view schedule, whatever. That one was already asked before I could have a chance to ask it, so I had to kind of come up with something on the spot. And it came across like a marky fucking nerdy question, but whatever. And then the Sammy Paul one was cool. The parallels, the Battleground 2016. Paul went back to my question and buried me, which was fucking great. Paul's amazing. I'm a big fan of his. What else? That was really about it. Yeah, it was backstage, but it wasn't like in the talent area, if that makes sense. It did connect to where the talent came through, but it wasn't like so like we didn't go through like the gorilla area to go where we did. This was like on the other side of the arena, and it connected to the talent locker room. So it was a long way. It wasn't exactly close. We didn't meet anyone else beyond that. Alexa said hi to Byron Saxton, which was funny as we were leaving the press area on our way out. That was funny. As far as other talent and stuff, no. Like I said, I got to ask Paul and Sammy a question. I got to ask Triple H a question. I didn't meet anyone else beyond that. I didn't go backstage. No one else went backstage. Maybe 1 or 2 people for other reasons, but that was about it. I was backstage at a house show they did a couple months ago, and that was where we recorded those interviews that you see here on the channel with Kofi. I got to put up the Riddle one, but I met Matt Riddle, Kofi, Drew McIntyre. I did meet that day and I did an interview with him backstage. And who was the other one? Oh, Austin Theory. They were all awesome, too. They were all very nice and cool. So, it was a really cool experience on Saturday. Thank you to anyone who tuned in or tweeted me or whatever. I really appreciate that. And it was fucking cool. I hope to do more of that sort of stuff in the future. His third question, on Twitter, there was a rumor saying at the Royal Rumble we could get Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the titles again, which is fine by me. But do you think if we get this match, should they make Sami Zayn the special guest referee? And if not, what stipulation should be on the line for the match if you were booking it? Here's the thing. I'm definitely in the minority on this one. I do not want Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Not because it's not a good match, and not because we've already seen it a million times. I mean, that is part of the reason, but here's the issue. The whole story is that Kevin Owens has yet to get a win over Roman Reigns. Do you really think they would have Kevin Owens beat Roman at the Rumble? And I don't think they should anyway. I don't think they should anyway, so what's even the point of doing the match again? If he's just going to lose, even if it's clean, he would be made to look like a loser. But if, like, Sammy cost him the win, he falls for the same mistake he did the first 3 times. Honestly, I really do not like the idea of Roman and Kevin Owens again. I feel like it's a complete fucking waste. There's so many other people Roman could be facing right now, from, Rollins or AJ, or even Sheamus makes more sense. Are these matches we've seen before? Yeah, but not since Roman's been champion, and if we have, there's more of a reason to do it. Like, Rollins and Roman had a legitimate reason to revisit that because it had a non-finish. Owens and Roman, yeah, people interfered all 3 times, but I don't think this will be any different. If Owens was winning, then okay. I don't think he is, though, is kind of the issue. To me, it feels like a waste of a match. Kevin Owens loses again. He already lost at Survivor Series. He lost to Roman 3 prior times. To do it again, to me, is a complete waste. When it really probably should be Roman and Sheamus, I feel like that would make a whole lot more sense, and I would be more excited to see that personally. So, if they do the match, and they probably will, what stipulation do you give it? The issue is that you have to ban the Bloodline from ringside because they've interfered all these fucking times. And if you don't, then he falls for the same mistake he did the first 3 times. And even if Roman Reigns wins clean, either Owens walks away a loser or he walks away an idiot. Or both. So I don't really see him coming out of this any better than he did going in. Which is why I don't really want to see the match. Zayn is the special guest referee. I don't really know why they would, from a storyline standpoint, do that. Because we already know he's biased towards Roman. He chose his side at Survivor Series. It's not like he's torn between the two anymore. He chose his side. And he will get booted eventually and rejoin Owens, I'm sure. I don't think it'll happen at the Rumble, though. So, I would keep Sami Zayn out of it. I don't know what stipulation you give it. I just don't even want to see the match. Because I just feel like Owens loses and it accomplishes nothing. Yeah, it's a part of the story, but it's like he loses for a 4th fucking time to Roman Reigns. It's like, how many times can this guy take an L to the guy? So, I don't really want to see that personally, but I know it's coming. Joe M. from YouTube, of these potential generational talents, who has had the bigger fall from grace and who has the better chance of reviving their career someday? Tessa Blanchard or Velveteen Dream? That's a good question. Of the two, I think Dream had a bigger fall from grace. I know Tessa Blanchard was the world champion in Impact, but it's fucking Impact. Who gives a fuck? I give a shit, but in the grand scheme, no one really gives a shit that she was a top star in Impact. Would she have been in WWE by now had the controversy with her not happened 2.5 years ago? I would absolutely believe so, for sure. For sure. I feel like she absolutely would have been in WWE by now. Dream was already in WWE. Dream was already well on his way to becoming a big star in WWE on the main roster. He was already a star in NXT. Honestly, his shit would have gone down the way that it did anyway, regardless of what show he was on. Vince was probably relieved that it happened while he was in NXT, not while he was pushing him on the main roster. Because imagine if Velveteen Dream, they gave him the big push on Raw and SmackDown, and then everything went down the way that it did, which it probably would have anyway, if not on a grander scale, because he was getting more of the spotlight at that point on Raw or SmackDown. If it were to happen, he would have had an even bigger fall from grace, and it would have been even more embarrassing than it was. He could have legitimately been mere months away from facing John Cena at WrestleMania, or being the NXT champion, or doing something super massive at a big WWE show. So, Dream was very, very close to breaking through that glass ceiling. He had people like John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, all praising him in his potential. Tessa had high supporters as well, but nowhere near the same amount of supporters and the level of supporters like the name value that Dream did. And Dream already had the platform. He was on the cusp of breaking through, and he fucked up. Blanchard wasn't already in WWE, but she probably would be by now, again, like I said, if she didn't fuck up and didn't have her issues. Who has the bigger chance of redeeming themselves? I don't think either of them will revive their careers, at least to the degree of where they were previously. I was going to say that Tessa's younger, but I think they're both relatively young. I think they're both still in their 20s. They're both I think Dream actually might be younger than Tessa Blanchard, but they're both still very young. If I had to choose, who has the better choice, or who has the better chance of reviving their career, I want to say Dream, just because. So here's the thing. I know Dream had a bigger fall from grace. The thing with Dream, I don't know. The thing with Dream is that his biggest like downfall was the speaking out stuff. Now, was that ever confirmed? We don't. I mean, it looks very likely, and he was even if he wasn't accused, even if he wasn't guilty of what he was accused of with the speaking out stuff, and I have no fucking clue whether that was all 100% true or if any of it was true. I have no idea. He was still involved with a lot of dumb shit. It sounds like he still has supporters in the company, which is what makes me think that maybe down the road, if he cleans up his act, maybe he could be back. Do I want to see him back? Not necessarily. I feel like that ship has sailed. But at least with that, at least his whatever he did can be rehabbed. With Tessa, I mean, I don't know if Dream ever apologized. It sounded like he at least attempted to come out with an apology at one point a while ago. He denied certain stuff, and again, whatever. We don't know what might be true and what might not be true. With Tessa, it sounds like with whatever happened with her in early 2020 specifically, with the racial slur stuff and whatever, a lot of people confirmed that to be true or were there for that, and a lot of women came out bashing Tessa Blanchard. So if enough people say it, excuse me, it sounds like it would be true. It sounds like if enough people confirm it, enough credible people, then it definitely could be true. That being said, that's a lot harder to come back from. She never apologized for it. She never really did much other than just say, hey, fuck you guys, fuck everyone, I'm the best, I'm the best, and, I did nothing wrong, and I don't really give a shit, you can hate me. But she took it completely the wrong way, as far as, like, instead of taking it in stride and saying, listen, I apologize, I'll attempt to do better in the future, no, she just fucking ran with the heat that she was getting and was like, oh, you can hate me if you want, and completely just reacted awfully. So I would say, honestly, Dream, for the bigger fall from grace, as the better chance of reviving his career. Because Tessa, I mean, with the racist label, whether she is or not, I mean, it looks pretty likely that she could be. Again, I don't know. It's hard to say because I wasn't involved, and we don't know every single little detail. I haven't spoken to anyone involved in the shit, whatever. It's beyond me. That said, that shit is harder to wipe away to me. I mean, there's people like that guy from fucking Seinfeld who was not accused but was guilty of it flat out in a video. Kramer. I mean, this is a pretty notable story, but that guy was, again, not accused, but he literally dropped the N-word during one of his bits. I think he called someone the N-word during one of his bits. Not bits, but like he got angry at someone in the crowd during a stand-up during a stand-up act, and he never recovered from that, and because it's on video and whatever, and it's hard to come back from that sort of shit because it's pretty fucking bad. So I would honestly say, long story short here, Dream has the better chance of coming back from it, as crazy as that sounds. He also was more talented too than Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard, it was great, but of the two, I feel like Dream had the higher ceiling, so I'll go with him for both answers. Joe M's second question: how should AEW use Scorpio Sky and Kyle O'Reilly when they return? Sky has the look and the ability to be a top guy, but I don't think the fans care about him enough to see him as such. Plus, he's nearly 40. I know O'Reilly flirted with being a top guy towards the end of his NXT run, but he was a bigger fish in the smaller pond there. Can they be top guys, or are they better in a Shawn Spears-like role? I would not compare anyone to Shawn Spears, considering the guy has made one fucking appearance on the show in the last 6 months, so I wouldn't give anyone that distinction of being the next Shawn Spears of AEW, because that's a pretty bad fucking place to be. And I know he had other issues, and he had family stuff going on, his wife's pregnant right now, but let's face it, even if he didn't have other stuff going on behind the scenes and personally and whatever, he would not be on the show. They have no plans for Shawn Spears. That said, what happens with Sky and Kyle O'Reilly? I thought Sky was hurt. He might still be hurt. I feel like even if he's cleared, they never are clear about this shit. They never say, oh, Sky's on his way back, and I'm not even saying like journalists aren't trying to find out, but if they do, they come up empty. I don't know why they're so secretive about the fucking injuries. Like, I would rather know, okay, this person's hurt, so we don't have to worry about, like, okay, why aren't they on TV? And creative just has nothing for them. Kyle O'Reilly has a much bigger shot of being a single star when he comes back. Adam Cole, we don't know what his status is. O'Reilly should get a real run in the TNT title picture. I feel like that's just perfect for him. Kyle O'Reilly, to me, at least in AEW, is not world champion material. They already have enough top talent and enough people where I could be like, okay, I could see them at that level. He was a bigger fish in a smaller pond. I could see him as the NXT champion, not necessarily as the AEW champion. And the Kyle O'Reilly is great, but I just can't see KOR as the AEW world champion. TNT champion for sure, though. Scorpio, the problem with him is that we already saw him as TNT champion a few different times, and it was fucking awful because they booked him terribly. I feel like the biggest mistake they made with Sky was turning him heel. Because I feel like he was getting over on his own in 2020 as a babyface. I mean, a lot of people, he wasn't like getting amazing reactions, but I feel like he was more over than he was before he left. The whole Dan Lambert shit did not help. The Ethan Page pairing was stupid. I would just bring him back as a babyface. Honestly, maybe even reunite him as Frankie Kazarian as SCU. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but like, I know they were already tag team champions, but Frankie's doing nothing. Scorpio's probably going to do jack shit when he comes back. I'd rather see Scorpio back with him than with Ethan Page. I felt that was a really random pairing, and that just wasn't very good either. So, yeah, I would like to see Scorpio Sky either way, either on his own or as a tag team guy, back as a babyface, because I feel like that's the role that fits him best. As a heel, no one gave a shit. No one cared, and also his booking was awful, so it just didn't exactly, it wasn't the best combination. Andre G from Facebook. He did add before this, I forgot to write this down, but he did, thank me for the reviews and stuff. It helps him, keeps him updated on the promotions and whatever, which I appreciate, Andre. Thank you so much for, leaving that nice comment. Your actual question was, since the women's tag team titles on the main roster are a complete failure, should they just go back to how the original concept worked, with one tag title being defended throughout all three brands? Yes, I'm surprised they even moved away from that in the first place. I think they wanted to move away from NXT. I mean, the weird thing now is that Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are now working more in sync than ever before as far as talent going from show to shows without there being any real barriers. So why not just break down the barriers with the tag titles? It's not as if either set of tag titles are being defended so regularly among their specific brands that they need to be kept separate. There really is no reason for it. Dakota Kai and Io Sky do not need to be tag team champions right now. The main roster has no fucking female teams anyway, so they should just keep the belts down in NXT and defend them on the main roster when need be. There's no reason for them. So, yeah, they should. I mean, I would get rid of the women's tag team titles altogether. I just feel like it's a complete fucking waste. NXT, thankfully, has done it better lately than the main roster has. But I just feel like no real company has been able to capture how good women's tag team wrestling can be. I mean, Impact has probably done the best job with it. And NWA has their own women's tag team titles for what division, I don't know. But Impact's done a good job with it in the last year or two. The problem there is that the matches just aren't very good. Like, at least lately, like the Death Dolls versus Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans just fucking sucked. Who cares? So, yeah, I feel like they could just, all companies could do a better job of it. Or at least make a different way. I don't know. They just need to come up with something different. It just feels like a tired concept at this point. At least in WWE, having two sets of women's tag titles does not work. I agree, it's a failure. I would get rid of all the women's tag titles and do something different with the women entirely. But if they're going to keep them, at least have just one set on the main roster or in NXT and have it defended amongst all three brands as it was originally. Let's see. Next question from Noel from Facebook. Do MJF and William Regal work together in AEW? I'm going to say yes. I don't know if we'll see them as an on-air pairing quite yet. I feel like they might be building to that as a full-fledged on-air thing. The thing is, if Regal's just a heel, like, what does he do? Is he just a regular on-air presence? I know he had his own faction with the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. That seems to be up in the air. I don't know. If he's like an authority figure or something like that, then sure. But Regal, if he's not going to wrestle and he's not going to manage anyone, then him just floating around as a heel doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So him being like what Heyman is to Roman makes a lot of sense personally. So I would just do that and have Regal be MJF's, not manager, but like his loose associate, where we see him with him sometimes, not all the time. And I know you can kind of say that was what Stokely was to MJF at one point, but that was just fucking stupid. I thought that was dumb. Regal was 10 times better than Stokely Hathaway, so. And I like Stokely, but Regal's just incredible. So, yeah, I honestly do think they will work together on some level, and I do hope they do, because I feel like they'd have great chemistry as a pairing together on TV. As seen in that dueling promo a couple weeks ago, when Regal laid into him and vice versa. His second question, do you think Sami Zayn should win the Royal Rumble? No, I don't. I feel like it should be Cody Rhodes. I just don't think if we get Roman and Sami at WrestleMania that Sami wins. I just feel like Sami winning the tag titles with Kevin Owens just makes a whole lot more sense. Owens gets his moment. Sami gets his moment. Cody can get his moment. I just would much rather see that personally. Yeah, so I don't think he does. I don't think he does win the Rumble. I don't think they're ready to tell that story yet anyway of him breaking away from the bloodline. If they did it, would I be upset? No, I'd be stoked. I just feel like the story would be better with Cody Rhodes. I don't really want to see anyone win the Rumble, and that goes for Braun Breaker or The Rock or whatever. I don't want to see anyone win the Rumble but fucking Cody Rhodes. So I hope he's back by then because he's the only person to me that makes the most sense. At Iwagu from Twitter, your thoughts on Zack Sabre Jr.? I think he's good. I enjoyed his work in the Cruiserweight Classic. I've enjoyed his work in New Japan from what I've seen of it, in Ring of Honor and whatnot. He's not exactly my cup of tea with all the technical holds, and I don't find him overly exciting, but he is a great wrestler. And I am at some point looking forward to him and Bryan Danielson. I was bummed we didn't get that at the Forbidden Door show, and hopefully we could still get that soon. Maybe we get it at the fucking at Wrestle Kingdom. They haven't announced it yet, but that would make the most sense. Maybe they don't want Danielson on that show because he can't miss the AEW show that same week. I don't know. But yeah, I still hope we get Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson soon because I feel like that match would have been kick-ass. Their second question, do you think that Clash of the Castle is the best major wrestling event of the year? I said this earlier, but yes, I do. Other than WrestleMania Night 1, which I would say was better than Clash from top to bottom, if you include Night 2 of WrestleMania as part of the WrestleMania package, then I would say Clash was probably the best show of the year. They had a lot of great shows this year, but Clash had a great energy about it, and it had three great matches with Rollins and Riddle, but two specifically with Sheamus and Gunther, and the main event with Roman and Drew. Those matches were on another level, were just fucking great. So I would say that was the best single show of the year. For one night, I would say Mania Night 1. Cody coming back and Austin and Owens, and then the Bianca Becky matches are hard to top. Those are hard to top, but other than that, again, if you include Mania 38 as a whole package between the two nights, I would go Clash as the best overall WWE pay-per-view of the year. And then the third question from Matt Uwagu91, your thoughts on Jey Uso finally accepting Sami Zayn. It was an awesome moment being there live for it. Was probably the biggest reaction of the entire show. The storytelling with these guys, I tweeted it the other day, it's just on another level. It's tremendous. It's the best thing going in wrestling right now, and it has been for a very long time. Everyone plays their role so remarkably well. I love how they're dragging out the story. It hasn't gotten boring, and I look forward to the eventual payoff, which should be amazing. I look forward to that a lot. So, no, I thought it was great. I thought what we got on Saturday was awesome, and I look forward to the next chapter. Final two questions, one from @noob_n_co.tv. What feuds will happen in 2023? They listed Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley, Becky versus Bayley, and Asuka versus Io Sky. Those are some of the most anticipated feuds that will happen in 2023. Yeah, I agree. I do think we get Bianca and Rhea next year for sure. Asuka, Io, definitely. I feel like we would have gotten that match one-on-one by now if they weren't building to it at some point as a one-on-one feud. Beth and Rhea as well. I feel like we're definitely getting at some point, probably at WrestleMania. Bayley and Becky we're getting now. So we're getting it next year, I'm sure, but I'm sure we're getting it now actually instead. And as far as those are all female feuds, but Roman and Cody I mentioned earlier. Roman and Rollins I want to see run back one more time. Riddle and Orton one-on-one, if Orton comes back at all. Hopefully he does. I feel like that would be great. The Usos versus Sami and Owens. That's a pretty obvious one, as they mentioned earlier. I'm trying to think of what else. Bray versus Roman down the road. Bray versus Karrion could be interesting at some point. The matches maybe not so much. That would be cool. Drew and Gunther would be sick. I feel like that'd be awesome. Gunther versus John Cena would be fucking cool too. Cena, speaking of whom, versus someone like an LA Knight would be really cool, or Logan Paul, which would be awesome. There's a lot of possibilities. Those are a few of the feuds I look forward to seeing hopefully next year. Some, if not all of them. And Mike Ponek, the last question. Why can a wrestler throw his opponent into the ring steps without a problem, but if he hits his opponent with the ring steps, he's disqualified? That's a great question. You should send that to WWE, not to me, because my problem is that we see this shit all the time, and really in wrestling in general, but specifically in WWE. It's gotten better under Triple H, but they are very inconsistent with how the fucking rules work. Not what you stated, but we saw it in the Rhea and Mia match, where they were having a match, And then I think like Balor got in the ring or something, and then AJ came out, and they started brawling. But they didn't like touch the women at all. Like I would think if they broke up the women fighting, then yeah, that would be a disqualification. But like they didn't even get involved. We've seen matches where like people will flat out fucking fight in the ring. Like people that are interfering on the wrestler's behalf that are already fighting. They'll fight in the ring, never make contact with the people that are actually in the match, and the people in the match will not get DQ'd. So it's just very inconsistent. I feel like they should clear that up. But they came out with a quote-unquote rule book years ago, and I read it, and I actually reviewed it here for the channel. It was all done in jest as far as like it was just a joke book, but they really should be more clear with the fucking rules. And so viewers aren't confused like, okay, I can't use the ring steps, but I can throw people into the ring steps. It's fucking silly. They should at least have the commentators clear that up if they're not going to clearly state it before the match or anywhere on their website or whatever. Because it does get confusing, and it's like, okay, then what am I supposed to believe? What am I supposed to give a shit about if nothing really... If the rules don't actually matter, if there's no rules that actually exist, then why should I give a shit? You know, but I completely agree. It gets very confusing. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 470 here today of #AskGSM, November 30th, 2022. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to, if you want to, send in the question to the show by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. I'm all over the place right now. Leave a question in the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode. I'm still, like I said, congested and whatnot. Hopefully I can get over this soon, and we'll be back to normal next week. Had to stop a couple times due to the occasional cough, but largely I'm fine. It's just, you know, allergy stuff and cold season and whatever. It's just not ideal, but it also just being busy hasn't helped either. But hopefully we can enjoy the rest of 2022, and it's smooth sailing into 2023. So have a great holiday season, guys. Enjoy the month of December. Coming up tomorrow, we will catch you right back here in episode 471 next week of #AskGSM. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.